The gun was heavier than I expected. My hands shook as I aimed at the man charging through the shattered office door, his weapon already raised. I squeezed the trigger twice, just like Ju had taught me 3 days ago. The recoil sent shock waves up my arms. The man dropped and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Blood roared in my ears louder than the alarms screaming through Min-jae's penthouse office. "Get down!" Ju tackled me behind the mahogany desk as bullets chewed through the leather furniture where I'd been standing. Glass exploded from the floor-to-ceiling windows. My wedding dress, the one I'd worn just 4 days ago, was torn and stained. 4 days! That's all it had been since my father sold me to Seoul's most dangerous crime lord. Welcome back to Obsessed with Afro-Korean. If this story pulled you in, please do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to tell you will shake everything you thought you knew about arranged marriages, crime lords, and survival. This gets darker before it gets better, trust me. I've got another powerful story dropping tomorrow. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing people tuning in from all over the world. Now let's jump back in. My name is Sienna, and 1 week before my wedding, my father called me into his study with that look on his face. The one that meant my life was about to change without my permission. "You're getting married," he said, not looking up from his whiskey. I laughed, actually laughed. "To who? I'm not even dating anyone." "Kang Min-jae." The name hit me like ice water. Everyone in Seoul knew that name. Everyone whispered it in the same breath as words like dangerous, untouchable, ruthless. The man who controlled half the city's underground operations. The man whose enemies disappeared. The man who, according to every rumor, every news report, every whispered conversation, was openly gay. "Dad, are you serious? He's gay. Everyone knows he's gay." My father finally looked at me and his eyes were empty. "I don't care if he sleeps with goats. This marriage clears my debts and protects this family. You'll do this, Sienna. It's already done." I called my best friend Maya immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. "He's definitely gay, Sienna," Maya said, her voice sympathetic. "I've seen the photos. He's been spotted at clubs, events. He doesn't even hide it. Maybe it won't be a real marriage. Maybe you can just live your own life." But I'd done my research that week. Kang Min-jae wasn't just some crime lord. He was the crime lord. 32 years old, built like he could break someone in half without trying, with a reputation for ruthlessness that made grown men cross the street when they saw him coming. And yes, every single article, every single society page photo showed him with men. Confirmed bachelor, they called him. Everyone knew. The wedding day came too fast. The ceremony was held in a private estate, cold and traditional and suffocating. I wore white because that's what was expected, even though nothing about this was pure or chosen. Min-jae stood at the altar in a black suit that probably cost more than my father's house, his face unreadable. He was beautiful in a terrifying way, all sharp angles and controlled power. When he looked at me during the vows, something flickered in his dark eyes, something that made my skin prickle with awareness, not comfort, not kindness, something more primal that I didn't want to examine. "I do," I whispered when prompted, though every cell in my body screamed to run. "I do," he said, his voice deep and curt, like he was claiming something rather than just agreeing to words. The reception was brief. I barely remember it. Then we were in his car, being driven to his penthouse in the heart of Seoul. Silence stretched between us like a living thing. I stared out the window, trying to process that my life as I knew it was over. "You're afraid," he said suddenly, not a question, an observation. "Wouldn't you be?" I kept my voice steady. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. "Probably," he shifted, and I could feel his gaze on me like heat. "Your father told you I'm gay." My head snapped toward him. In the dim light of the passing streetlights, his expression was unreadable. "Everyone knows you're gay," I said carefully. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Do they?" The penthouse was massive, all modern lines and expensive everything. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights. I stood in the middle of the living room, still in my wedding dress, feeling like an actress who'd forgotten her lines. Min-jae loosened his tie, watching me with that same intensity from the car. "Would you like to know the truth?" "About what?" "About me, about why you're really here." My heart hammered. "My father's debts." "That's the business reason." He moved closer and I forced myself not to step back. "I saw your photo when your father proposed this arrangement, and for the first time in my life I wanted someone. Actually, I physically wanted them." The world tilted. "But you're..." "I'm not." His voice was flat, certain. "I've never been. It's a useful fiction, keeps me safe. keeps my enemies from using anyone I care about against me. If they think I have no interest in women, they don't look for vulnerabilities there. If this story has you hooked, drop a like and let me know in the comments if you've ever had your whole world flipped upside down in one conversation. So this whole time, I couldn't finish the sentence. The whole time I've been building an empire and keeping myself isolated, no weaknesses, no attachments. He was close now, close enough that I could smell his cologne, expensive and masculine. Until I saw you, then I became obsessed. The word obsessed hung in the air between us like a threat. I should have been relieved that my husband wasn't gay, that this marriage might be normal in some twisted way. Instead, I felt trapped in a different kind of cage, a more dangerous one. You don't know me, I said, adding how my voice shook. You saw a photo. I know enough. His hand reached up, fingers grazing my cheek so gently it felt like a lie. I know you have a degree in international business your father never let you use. I know you practice martial arts twice a week at the gym on 5th Street. I know you're brave enough to look me in the eyes right now when most men can't. The fact that he'd researched me, watched me, known about my life before I knew about any of this made my stomach turn. This isn't love, this is ownership. I never said anything about love. His thumb traced my jawline. I said want, I said obsession. Love is for people who have the luxury of choice. And I don't have choices anymore. No, he agreed, brutally honest. You don't, but neither do I. I saw you and everything I'd built. Every wall I'd constructed became meaningless, so here we are. He kissed me then, and it wasn't gentle or patient. It was consuming, possessive, the kiss of a man who denied himself for too long. I should have pushed him away, should have fought. But my body betrayed me, responding to the heat and hunger in ways my mind couldn't justify. When he lifted me, I wrapped my legs around his waist. When he carried me to the bedroom, I didn't protest. The wedding night was everything the ceremony wasn't. Raw, passionate, intense enough to make me forget for a few hours that I'd been sold like property. In the darkness, with his hands on my skin and his breath in my ear, I could almost pretend this was something I'd chosen. Almost. The next morning, I woke up alone in a massive bed, my body aching in unfamiliar ways. Min-jae's side was cold. I found a note on the nightstand in sharp, precise handwriting. Breakfast in the kitchen, don't leave the penthouse. You will be outside if you need anything. Don't leave the penthouse, like I was a prisoner with nice accommodations. I explored my new cage that day. The penthouse was ridiculous, 3 floors connected by a private elevator, every surface expensive and cold. There was a gym, a library, an office with locks I couldn't break. I found clothes in the closet, all my size, all expensive. He'd prepared for me like someone prepares for an acquisition. Jiu, Min-jae's assistant and bodyguard, was a wall of muscle with surprisingly kind eyes. He stood outside the penthouse door like a statue. Can I leave? I asked him directly. Boss says you stay inside for now, too dangerous out there, people know about the wedding. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected. His expression didn't change. There's a difference. Is there? He almost smiled. Ask me again in a week. Min-jae came home late that night, his shirt stained with something I didn't want to identify. He showered without saying a word to me, then found me in the library trying to distract myself with books. How was your day? He asked like we were a normal couple. Fantastic. I measured my cage. It's very spacious. He sat down across from me, exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. You're angry. I'm trapped. You're safe. There's a difference. That's what Jiu said. Do you all practice these lines together? This time he did smile just slightly. He's not wrong. My enemies would love to know I have a wife, a real wife, someone I actually care about. You don't care about me, you're obsessed with me, you said so yourself. Can't it be both? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I'm not going to apologize for what I am, Sienna. I'm not a good man. I've done things that would make you run screaming, but I will keep you safe. I will give you everything you could want, and in time maybe you'll understand why I needed you here. I don't want things, I want freedom. Freedom is an illusion. Everyone serves someone, at least here you serve someone who wants you alive. The third day, everything changed. I was in the penthouse gym taking out my frustration on a punching bag when the alarms started screaming. Jill burst through the door, gun already drawn. Min-jae's office, now we're under attack. My blood turned to ice. What? Rival faction? They hit 3 of our locations simultaneously. Boss is pinned down 2 floors below. We need to secure you and then. The elevator dinged. Wrong elevator. The private one that only came to the penthouse. Gio's face went white. Get behind me now. But I'd already seen the men pouring out, 3 of them armed and moving like professionals. Gio fired twice, dropping one, but then he was grappling with another and the third was coming at me. Comment below if you think I survived this, because what happened next changed everything about who I thought I was. Training twice a week in a nice gym doesn't prepare you for someone actually trying to kill you. The man was bigger, stronger, faster, but he underestimated me. Thought I'd freeze or scream or beg. Instead, when he grabbed my arm, I used his momentum against him, a move I'd practiced 1,000 times in a safe space with a patient instructor. I drove my elbow into his throat, and when he staggered, I grabbed the lamp off the side table and smashed it across his face. He went down hard, blood streaming from his nose, but he wasn't unconscious. His hand scrabbled for the gun at his belt. I couldn't think. I kicked him in the head as hard as I could, then again until he stopped moving. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely stand. Gio had subdued the second man, snapping his neck with an efficiency that made my stomach turn. We need to move, more could be coming. Min-jae is 2 floors down fighting for his life. We will get you secure first, then I will go to him. No, the word came out stronger than I felt. We go together, you can't leave him alone. Gio stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Ma'am, my orders are to protect you first. Your orders were to protect the wife of a gay man who didn't matter. I'm the wife of Kang Min-jae and I'm telling you we will help him. Now. Something shifted in Gio's expression. Respect maybe, or just recognition that I wasn't going to back down. He handed me the gun from the dead man at his feet. You know how to use this? Point and shoot right. Close enough, stay behind me. If I say run, you run, understand? We took the stairs, Gio moving like liquid death in front of me. I could hear gunfire below, shouting, the sounds of chaos. My heart was trying to beat out of my chest. 4 days ago I was planning to maybe go to graduate school. Now I was holding a gun and running toward a firefight. Min-jae's office floor was a war zone. Bodies on the ground, some moving, some not. Bullet holes in the walls, the smell of blood and gunpowder thick enough to choke on. Through the shattered glass of his office I could see Min-jae behind his desk, gun in each hand, 3 men dead at his feet and more pressing in from the hallway. He saw us and his face transformed. For just a second I saw real fear there, not for himself, for me. Get her out of here, he roared at Gio. But then more men were pouring out of the elevator, cutting off our retreat. 6 of them, professional and coordinated. We were trapped between 2 forces. Behind the desk, Gio ordered, shoving me toward cover. He and Min-jae moved like they'd done this 1,000 times, covering each other, firing in precise bursts. I crouched behind a filing cabinet, the gun heavy in my hands, trying not to think about the fact that I'd just killed someone upstairs, trying not to think about anything except surviving the next 5 minutes. One of the attackers broke through, coming at Min-jae from his blind side. I didn't hesitate. I raised the gun the way Gio had shown me, aimed center mass like I was still hitting that punching bag, and pulled the trigger once, twice. The man fell. Min-jae's head whipped around, his eyes finding mine across the chaos. In that moment, something passed between us. Understanding, partnership, recognition that I wasn't just his prisoner anymore, I was someone who just saved his life. The fight lasted 3 more minutes that felt like hours. When it was finally over, when the last attacker was down and the only sounds were alarms and ragged breathing, Min-jae crossed the room to me in 3 strides. His hands cupped my face, checking for injuries, his touch desperate and possessive. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? I'm fine, I killed 2 of them. The words sounded surreal in my own voice. I killed 2 people, Min-jae. You survived? That's all that matters. He pulled me against his chest and I could feel his heart racing as fast as mine. You should have run, you should have let Gio get you out. And leave you to die? I don't think so. He pulled back, staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You're insane. I'm your wife, apparently that means something now. Gio was on his phone, barking orders for cleanup crews and medical teams. Boss, we need to move. They'll regroup and try again. Safe house, Min-jae agreed, still holding me. How bad were the other locations hit? 2 casualties on our side, 8 of theirs. They hit hard, but we hit harder. Over the next week, locked in Minjae's fortified safe house in the mountains, the reality of my new life crystallized. This wasn't just an arranged marriage. This was war, and I was on the front lines whether I wanted to be or not. Make sure you're subscribed because this is where my story gets really interesting, where I stopped being a victim and started becoming something else entirely. Minjae spent those days coordinating his response to the attack, making examples of the rival faction that had dared to strike at him. I watched him work, seeing the cold calculation behind every decision, the ruthlessness that had built his empire. At night, he came to bed exhausted and bloody, and I held him because somehow, impossibly, we were becoming something more than captor and captive. "I need to teach you properly," he said on the 5th day, finding me in the safe house gym. "What you did in my office, that was luck and adrenaline. Next time you might not be so lucky." Next time. There's always a next time in my world, our world now. He moved behind me, adjusting my stance, his hands on my hips. "You're staying, Sienna. After what you did, after you chose to fight instead of run, you're in this, so I need you to be able to protect yourself." "I don't want this life." "I know," his breath was warm against my ear, "but you're living it anyway, so let me keep you alive." The training started that day. Ju and Minjae taking turns teaching me everything from hand-to-hand combat to weapons handling to tactical awareness. It was brutal, exhausting, painful. I went to bed every night covered in bruises, my muscles screaming, but I also went to bed stronger. "You're a natural," Gio said after 2 weeks, watching me disarm him for the 3rd time in a row. "Most people freeze in combat, you attack." "Maybe I'm just angry." "Anger's good, keeps you sharp, just don't let it make you stupid." 2 months into the marriage, I wasn't the same person who'd walked down that aisle. I could field strip a gun in under a minute. I knew 17 ways to kill someone with my bare hands. I'd stopped flinching at the sound of gunfire. Minjae's enemies had tried twice more to hit his operations, and twice more I'd been there, fighting alongside his soldiers like I'd been born to it. "You terrify me," Minjae said one night, watching me clean my weapons at the dining table like it was the most normal thing in the world. "I thought I was bringing home a wife, instead I got a warrior." "You made me this?" I didn't look up from the gun I was reassembling. "You can't put someone in hell and expect them not to learn how to survive it. Is that what this is to you, hell?" I finally met his eyes. The truth was complicated. Yes, I'd been forced into this. Yes, I'd killed people. Yes, I woke up sometimes with blood on my hands in my nightmares, but I'd also never felt more alive, never felt more capable. And when Minjae looked at me the way he was looking at me now, with pride and desire and something dangerously close to love, I couldn't say I hated it. "It's not the life I would have chosen," I said carefully, "but it's the life I have, so I'm going to be damn good at it." He crossed the room, pulling me up from my chair and kissing me hard enough to bruise. "I'm in love with you, you know that, right?" This stopped being an obsession weeks ago. My heart stuttered. "Minjae, you don't have to say it back. I know this started wrong. I know I gave you no choice. But I need you to know that if anyone tries to take you from me, I will burn this entire city down." "That's not romantic, that's terrifying." "It's both." His hands were in my hair, tilting my head back so I had to look at him. "And you love it, don't pretend you don't. I see the way you come alive in a fight, the way you look at me after we take down our enemies. You're not a prisoner anymore, Sienna, you're a queen, and this is your kingdom as much as mine." He wasn't entirely wrong, and that scared me more than anything. Because somewhere between the forced marriage and the violence and the blood, I'd stopped fighting what was happening between us. I'd started leaning into it. "I don't know what I feel," I admitted. "Everything's so twisted up. How am I supposed to know what's real when it all started as a transaction?" "Then we make it real, starting now, starting with truth." He sat down, pulling me into his lap. "Ask me anything, no more secrets between us." "Why do you do this? The crime, the violence, all of it. You're smart enough to do anything. Why this?" His jaw tightened. "My father was killed when I was 15. Rival gang execution style right in front of me. I had 2 choices, run and hide forever or take over his empire and make sure no one could ever touch my family again. I chose power, I chose survival, and once you're in this world there's no clean way out." "Do you want to go out?" "I didn't, not until you." His hand settled on my stomach, protective and possessive. Now I think about it every day, what it would be like to walk away, to give you a normal life, to have children who don't grow up around guns and bodyguards. Children, my voice went high, we've been married for 2 months. And we've been having unprotected sex for 2 months, don't tell me you haven't thought about it. I had, of course I had. Every time my period was late, every time I felt nauseous in the morning, I wondered if this complicated situation was about to get infinitely more complicated. If you're wondering what happens next, hit that like button and drop a comment about whether you think having a baby in a crime family is brave or insane, because I was about to find out. The attack came 3 weeks later, coordinated and vicious. 4 of Min-jae's territories hit simultaneously, a clear message from the coalition of enemies who decided he'd gotten too powerful. I was with Min-jae at his central operations hub when the calls started coming in. "They're hitting the docks," one lieutenant reported, voice tight with stress. 20 men, maybe more, heavy weapons. "Southside warehouse is on fire," another call. "We've got casualties. They're pushing hard on the Gangnam operation. We're holding but we need reinforcements." Min-jae's face was carved from stone as he coordinated responses, moving resources like pieces on a chessboard. "Jiu, take 15 men to the docks, secure the shipment at any cost. Chen, get fire suppression to the warehouse and pull everyone back to secondary positions. I'm going to Gangnam." "I'm coming with you," I said, already checking my weapon. "Sienna. Don't, we're past that, where you go I go." Something fierce and proud flashed in his eyes. "Then let's go to war." The Gangnam operation was a front company that processed most of Min-jae's legitimate-looking transactions. 3 floors of offices and warehouses, now under siege by at least 30 attackers. We came in from the back, Min-jae's team moving with military precision. I'd trained with these men for weeks. They didn't see me as the boss's wife anymore, they saw me as one of them. The fighting was intense, close quarters and brutal. I dropped 3 men in the first 5 minutes, my training taking over, muscle memory and adrenaline making every movement sharp and certain. Min-jae fought like a demon, protecting his territory and his people with single-minded ferocity. We were winning, pushing them back when I saw the attacker with the grenade. He was young, desperate, cornered, and he was looking right at Min-jae with the pin already pulled. I didn't think, just moved. Tackled Min-jae sideways as the grenade flew, both of us hitting the ground hard as the explosion tore through the space where he'd been standing. My ears rang, couldn't hear anything but a high-pitched whine. Min-jae's mouth was moving, saying something, his hands on my face. I tasted blood. Then the pain hit, shrapnel in my side, burning like fire. I looked down and saw red spreading across my shirt, too much red, and Min-jae's face went white. "Medic," he was screaming, "get me a medic now." "I'm okay," I tried to say, but the words wouldn't come out right. The world was tilting, getting fuzzy at the edges. Min-jae's face above me was the last thing I saw before everything went black, his expression more terrified than I'd ever seen it. This man who faced down enemies without flinching was completely undone by my blood on his hands. I woke up in a private hospital room, expensive machines beeping around me, my side wrapped in bandages that pulled tight when I tried to move. Min-jae was asleep in the chair beside my bed, his hand wrapped around mine, his face haggard like he hadn't slept in days. "How long?" My voice came out rough. His eyes flew open and the relief that washed over his face was almost painful to see. 3 days, you've been out for 3 days, the shrapnel punctured your intestine, they had to do emergency surgery." His voice cracked. "You almost died, Sienna, you threw yourself on a grenade for me." "Wasn't a grenade, just shrapnel." "Don't joke, not about this." He stood, leaning over me, his forehead pressing against mine. "I can't lose you, I won't survive it, do you understand? I have faced down death 100 times and never flinched, but watching you bleed out in my arms destroyed me. I'm okay, I'm right here. You saved my life and almost lost yours, that's not okay, nothing about that is okay." His hands were shaking. Min-jae, who never shook, who never showed weakness, was completely undone. "We're done, I'm getting out." "What?" "The criminal empire, all of it, I'm done. I'll transition everything to legitimate businesses, pay off the right people, disappear from the underworld. It'll take time, maybe 2 years to do it safely, but I'm out, because I can't keep doing this. I can't keep putting you in danger." "Min-jae, your entire life." Means nothing if you're dead, he kissed me soft and desperate. You're pregnant. The world stopped. What? They did blood tests during surgery. You're 8 weeks pregnant. We're having a baby, Sienna, and I will not raise my child in this world. I won't have my son or daughter growing up the way I did, surrounded by violence and death. So we're out. 2 years to clean everything up and then we're done. I couldn't speak, couldn't process. A baby, I was having Minjae's baby. The man I'd been sold to, forced to marry, had somehow become the father of my child, and instead of feeling trapped, I felt something else entirely. Hope, maybe. Or just the recognition that we'd created something innocent in the middle of all this darkness. 2 years, I whispered, you promise. I promise, in our child's life, I promise. His hand settled on my stomach, protective and reverent. No more war, no more fighting. We'll build something clean, something real for us, for our family. The recovery took weeks. Jill brought me reports every day about how Minjae was systematically dismantling his empire, converting operations, selling territories, making deals with rivals to ensure a smooth transition. It was like watching a king abdicate, giving up power piece by careful piece. He's different since you got hurt, Jill told me one afternoon. Colder to the enemies, warmer to the soldiers, like he's trying to take care of everyone before he leaves. He feels guilty. He should. You took shrapnel meant for him. Jill studied me with those knowing eyes. But you don't regret it, do you? No, the truth surprised me. I don't. Is that crazy? Maybe, but love usually is. Love. The word still felt strange, but it was getting easier to accept. I loved Minjae. Somewhere between the forced marriage and the violence and the blood, I'd fallen completely in love with my husband. The man who'd bought me was now the man I'd die for. Life was nothing if not complicated. Remember to comment below about whether you believe people can really change, because I was betting everything on it. My pregnancy progressed, my belly growing round while Minjae's empire grew smaller. He was meticulous about the transition, making sure every loose end was tied, every enemy placated, every ally compensated. Some nights he came home exhausted, collapsing beside me, his hand always finding my stomach. She kicked today, I told him one evening. The baby she kicked. His face lit up in a way I'd never seen. You think it's a girl. I know it's a girl, I can feel it. What should we name her? Hope, I said without hesitation, because that's what she is, our hope for something better. His eyes went bright with unshed tears. Hope, I like that, Hope Kang. Hope Kang, I repeated, testing the name, our daughter. 6 months pregnant, I stood beside Minjae as he addressed his gathered soldiers one final time. 50 men who'd fought for him, bled for him, some who'd die for him. They looked at him with respect and something close to worship. 2 years ago, I promised you power and profit, Minjae said, his voice carrying across the warehouse. I've delivered on that promise, but now I'm making a different choice. I'm leaving this life, not because of weakness, not because of fear, but because I have something more important to protect. His hand found mine, squeezing tight. My wife nearly died protecting me. My daughter will be born in 3 months, and I will not raise her in blood and violence, so I'm transitioning everything to legitimate operations. Those who want to come with me, you'll have positions in the new companies. Good pay, legal work, clean money. Those who want to stay in this life, I've made arrangements with trusted allies. You'll be taken care of, but my time in the underworld ends today. The silence was absolute. Then Jiu started clapping, and one by one, every man in that warehouse joined in. They weren't applauding his departure. They were celebrating his survival. Because in this world, getting out alive was the rarest victory of all. The transition wasn't clean or simple. There were betrayals, attempts by rivals to seize territory during the power vacuum, last-minute complications that had Minjae working 18-hour days even as my due date approached. But he kept his promise. Every decision pointed toward the exit. Every deal moved us closer to freedom. 3 more months, he said one night, his hand on my swollen belly, feeling our daughter move. 3 more months and we're completely legitimate, clean, free. You think it'll feel different, being legal? Yeah. I think waking up without wondering who wants me dead will feel pretty damn good. He kissed my stomach. And knowing Hope can go to regular school, have normal friends, live without bodyguards shadowing her every move, that's everything. Labor started 2 weeks early, fast and brutal. Minjae drove like a maniac to the hospital, holding my hand so tight I thought he might break my fingers. Breathe, just breathe, we're almost there. I am breathing, I gasped between contractions. This hurts like hell. I know, I'm sorry. He looked genuinely distressed, like he could fight off armed enemies but was helpless against childbirth. Just hold on. 14 hours later, Hope entered the world screaming, tiny and perfect, and ours. Minjae cried when they put her in his arms, this ruthless crime lord reduced to tears by 7 pounds of wrinkled infant. She's perfect. Sienna, she's absolutely perfect. She has your eyes, I whispered, exhausted and overwhelmed and more in love than I knew was possible. She has your strength, look at those lungs. He was laughing and crying at the same time. Our daughter, our hope. Ju came by the next day, bringing flowers and looking uncomfortable in the maternity ward. She's beautiful, boss, congratulations. Thank you, Minjae held Hope like she was made of glass. How are things? Clean, the last transfers went through this morning. As of today, you're officially retired from the underworld. Everything's legitimate, you did it. The relief on Minjae's face was profound. It's really over. It's really over, you're just a boring businessman now. Best news I've heard in years. Taking Hope home was terrifying. Suddenly this tiny person depended on us for everything and neither of us had any idea what we were doing. Minjae, who could coordinate military operations without breaking a sweat, panicked over every sound she made. Is that normal? Should she be breathing like that? She's fine, Bobby's breathe weird. Are you sure? Maybe we should call the doctor. Minjae, she's fine, you face down armed killers, you can handle a newborn. Armed killers are predictable, Bobbies are terrifying. If you've made it this far, drop a like and tell me in the comments if you think reformed criminals can be good parents, because we were about to find out. The first month was chaos. Sleepless nights, constant feedings, learning to function on 2 hours of sleep. But it was also beautiful. Watching Minjae with Hope, seeing this dangerous man reduced to singing lullabies off-key and making silly faces to get her to smile, showed me a side of him I'd never imagined existed. I never thought I could have this, he said one night, Hope asleep on his chest. A family, peace, normal problems like dirty diapers and sleep schedules instead of territory disputes and assassination attempts. You miss it all, the power. He thought for a moment. Sometimes I miss the certainty, the control, but then I look at her and I know I made the right choice. Power is meaningless if you can't protect what matters. You've gone soft, Kang Minjae. Completely, he smiled, that rare genuine smile that transformed his face, and I've never been happier. 3 months after Hope was born, Minjae made his final appearance in the criminal underworld. A meeting of the major players confirming his retirement and the territorial agreements he'd negotiated. I stayed home with Hope, but Gio filled me in later. He walked in like a king and left like a ghost, Gio said. Made it clear he's out, that anyone who comes after him or his family will face unified retaliation from everyone at that table. He burned every bridge to keep you safe. Is that enough? Will they leave us alone? In this world, nobody's ever completely safe. But he's done everything possible to minimize the risk. The rest is just living with the consequences of who we used to be. Who we used to be? I thought about the woman I'd been a year and a half ago, sold into marriage, terrified and trapped. She felt like a stranger now. I'd killed people, I'd fought in wars. I'd saved my husband's life and nearly lost my own. I'd given birth to a daughter in the middle of a criminal empire's collapse. That woman who walked down the aisle in white had died somewhere along the way, replaced by someone harder, stronger, more complicated. Do you regret it? Minjae asked me one night, both of us watching Hope sleep in her crib. Everything that happened, the way we started. I thought about lying, giving him the easy answer, but we'd promised truth between us. I regret that I didn't have a choice. I regret the violence and the fear. I regret that people died because of decisions we made. I turned to face him, but I don't regret us, I don't regret her, and I don't regret becoming someone strong enough to survive your world. I should have given you a choice. You couldn't, that's not who you were then. I took his hand. But you gave me a choice when it mattered. You chose to leave that world for us. That's the choice that counts. 2 years after the wedding, we moved out of the penthouse in Seoul to a house in the countryside, away from the city and the memories. It was smaller, quieter, surrounded by trees instead of steel and glass. Hope took her first steps in the garden, chasing butterflies while Minjae and I watched like we'd witnessed a miracle. This is what normal looks like, I said, leaning against him. I almost forgot. It's terrifying. No guards, no weapons, no enemies at the gate, just us and our daughter and a mortgage. He laughed, the sound lighter than I'd ever heard it. I keep waiting for something to go wrong. Maybe nothing will, maybe we will actually get to be happy. Is that allowed after everything we've done? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. The legitimate businesses Minjae had built were thriving. Tech investments, real estate development, import-export operations with actual legal goods. He went to an office like a normal person, wore suits without shoulder holsters, came home at reasonable hours. We had neighbors who invited us to barbecues who didn't know anything about who we'd been. "Mr. Kang, your daughter is adorable," Mrs. Kim from next door said one afternoon. "You must be so proud." "Every single day," Minjae said, Hope giggling on his shoulders. "Every single day." Sometimes, late at night when Hope was asleep and the house was quiet, Minjae and I would talk about the past, not to relive it but to make peace with it. "Do you think we're good people?" I asked him once. "No," he said honestly, "good people don't do what we did, don't kill the way we killed." "Then what are we?" "Survivors, people who did terrible things to protect what mattered, people who are trying to be better." He pulled me closer. "And parents who are damn well going to make sure our daughter never has to make the choices we made." Gio visited sometimes. Now head of security for Minjae's legitimate companies. He'd left the underworld too, following his boss into the light. He brought Hope presents, taught her to laugh, became Uncle Gio in a way that made my heart ache with unexpected family. "You two did it," he said one evening, watching Hope play. "Actually got out and stayed out, that's rare, almost impossible." "Worth it though," I said. "Yeah," he smiled, something soft in his expression. "Definitely worth it." On our second anniversary, Minjae took me back to the estate where we'd gotten married. The place had been converted into a museum, ironically enough. We stood in the garden where we'd taken our vows, Hope babbling in my arms. "If I could go back," Minjae said quietly, "knowing everything that would happen, all the pain and blood and fear, I'd still marry you, every single time. Even though I had no choice. Especially because you had no choice and you chose me anyway. Later, when you could have run, could have taken Hope and disappeared, you stayed. That choice means everything." "I love you," I said, and the words were easy now, true in a way I'd stopped questioning. "I love who you became, who we became together. I love you too, more than I thought I could love anything." He kissed me, soft and sweet, our daughter between us. "Thank you for saving my life, for giving me a reason to leave, for Hope." Hope turned 2 in the spring, running through the garden in a yellow dress, laughing at everything. We threw her a party with other parents and their kids, completely normal and mundane and perfect. Minjae grilled hamburgers, I made too much potato salad, and nobody got shot. Success. "She's going to ask questions eventually," I said that night, Hope asleep between us in our bed after too much cake and excitement. "About who we were, what we did." "I know, what do we tell her?" "The truth, I think, not all of it, not yet, but eventually the truth, that we made mistakes, that we hurt people, that we're trying to be better." I stroked Hope's hair, so soft and dark like her father's, "and that we love her more than anything in this world." "She'll hate us." "Maybe, or maybe she'll understand that people are complicated, that we can be monsters and parents at the same time, that love doesn't erase the past but it can build a future." Minjae was quiet for a long moment. "I used to think power was everything, control, respect, fear. Then I met you and realized I'd been living half a life. You gave me everything that matters. You gave me strength, choice, eventually, a daughter, a future I never imagined wanting. We saved each other." "Yeah, I guess we did." 3 years after our forced wedding, I stood in our kitchen making breakfast while Hope colored at the table and Minjae read the newspaper like a regular father. Sunlight streamed through the windows. The coffee was too strong. Hope was singing off-key. It was perfectly, beautifully ordinary. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya, my best friend who I'd reconnected with once life had stabilized. "Coffee this week, want to hear about Hope's terrible twos?" I smiled, typing back a yes. Normal friend problems, normal life. "What are you thinking about?" Minjae asked, watching me over his newspaper. "How far we've come, how impossible this seemed 3 years ago." I sat down next to Hope, who immediately showed me her drawing of what might have been a cat or possibly a dinosaur. How I wouldn't change it, any of it. Not even the parts where you almost died. Not even those, because they led here to us. He reached across the table, taking my hand. His wedding ring caught the light, same as mine, symbols of a marriage that had started as a transaction and become something real. I protected myself, I had told him once, covered in blood after that first attack. I protected your people, your territory, your empire, because that's what your wife does. Now I protected different things: Hope's innocence, our peace, the normal life we'd built from the ashes of who we used to be, and that was enough. Mama, look, Hope held up her drawing proudly. It's us, you and Daddy and me. 3 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. No guns, no blood, no enemies, just a family. It's perfect, baby, I said, pulling her into my lap. Absolutely perfect. Minjae met my eyes across the table, and in that look was everything we'd survived, everything we'd sacrificed, everything we'd become. Monsters who learned to love, criminals who found redemption, 2 people forced together who chose to stay. Our story didn't start with love. It started with obsession and transaction and violence. But it ended with hope, with peace, with a future we'd fought and bled for, and in the end, maybe that was enough. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments whether you believe in second chances and redemption. Do people really change, or do we just become better at hiding who we are? Share your thoughts below. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. This is Sienna Kang signing off. Remember, even the darkest beginnings can lead to the most beautiful endings. See you in the next.